Ndiredi ukundiza niphumoya Ndinawamandla ukundiza niphumoya
Hello, welcome back to another episode of One on One with Amakhosikazi. My name is Busibebe, and on this program, we bring you an unfiltered, uncovered version of a woman that is doing great things in her community, in the country and internationally. We're looking at women that are touching lives, and we want to learn from them, and we want you to know about them, because most of the time they do their work in silence. Today we have a young lady who has inspired me from afar. She's a Mandela Washington Fellow. Her name is Candice Mbaita. Candice, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Candice is a radiographer. She has 14 years experience in diagnostic medical imaging. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Tell us more about that. What does that involve?
Okay, so basically diagnostic medical imaging is imaging of the body's different systems for medical diagnosis purposes. You know, when you go to your doctor with all sorts of ailments, your doctor needs to figure out what's wrong with you. And what a radiographer basically does is help the doctor find out what's wrong with you. So we have different imaging modalities such as ultrasound, X-ray, MRI scans, CT scans, nuclear medicine. So there are several different modalities within radiography that help us to image the systems. And when I say systems, I'm talking about things like your cardiovascular system, which is your heart and your blood vessels, your blood supply. We're talking about your skeletal system, your bones. So this is where X-ray comes in. We're talking about your digestive system, your reproductive system. So everything basically that makes up a human body can be imaged using radiography in order for us to pick out problems.
Now, before we go into what you're actually doing now with your skill and your profession, can we come to who Candice Mbaita is? Tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
All right. I'm a small town girl. I was actually born and raised in Wange, small mining town of Wanki. Back then it was called Wanki. Yes. So yeah, that's me, my humble beginnings. But I moved to Bulawayo several years ago, I think straight after high school. I went to St. James for my high school out in the bush. So a small town girl and a bush girl. Yes, and then I also went to NUST.
So where did you ever think of yourself as working in the medical field at all? Was that always your passion?
Yes,
field?
Definitely. So my medical roots start from childhood. My mother is a registered nurse. My father used to work at the Wanki Colliery Hospital Pharmacy. So I grew up in the hospital setting. When I'd go visit my parents at work, it was going to a hospital. So I think that definitely molded who I was and my focus and my aspirations. I always saw myself working in the hospital. And
was radiography that area of focus? Why I ask is because every kid wants to be a doctor when they grow up, or a lawyer, one of the two, especially around these parts of the world. But we never think of the different areas within medicine that people can branch into, such that everyone wants to be a surgeon or a general practitioner. How did you venture into radiography?
You're so right in saying that, because growing up, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I mean, that was, the one
focus,
thing.
Yes.
I wanted to be a doctor, and even up to my high school, I wanted to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to work in the hospital. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. I wanted to, solve medical problems. But as happens in life, and as will happen to several other young women out there, I didn't get enough points to do medicine, right? I got my fewer than necessary points. And I was faced with the decision, what do I do with these points? But my passion still was the medical field. So So I looked at what options were available for me. And I thought, well, radiography seems interesting. And if you're going to be helping the doctor to do diagnosis, so you are having some sort of impact,
influence,
exactly,
yes,
on the patient management. So that's how I went with medical imaging or
So
radiography.
who advised you that with your few points and not necessarily become a general practitioner or a medical doctor or surgeon, you could actually work in the medical field? Where did you get that guidance from?
Probably my mother, because she worked in the field, so she knew the other professions that were within the health field. So she did say to me, okay, look, these are the programs that are available in our local universities, and she kind of explained what each was, you know, in more depth than my basic knowledge. So I think she's really the one that helped me see what each of these other professions was about, and helped me decide, okay, let me try this medical imaging route.
So talking to other women like yourself that have succeeded in life, a significant number tell me that they didn't get the academic points that they wanted for a certain profession that they aspired to. But that didn't stop them. There are so many girls out there that want to be something, but because of our education system that tells them, no, because you have 6 points, you can't be a doctor, you can't be a lawyer, because you have this number of points, you can't be this. Should that stop someone? Should that stop anyone from being what they want to be? And how do you maneuver out of that trap of saying, if I haven't gotten this number of points, or I didn't do this subject at A level, so I can't be what I want to be?
Yeah, I think our society is still very much focused on the traditional type of careers, and we're kind of forcing these things down the throats of young children.
People.
Yes, and they grow up thinking we need to have this certain number of points in order for me to do this particular thing. But I think we need to nurture passion and talent within our young people, and to just let them know it's not about the points. It's about what you're most passionate about, what you're most interested in, what you're good at. And let's try and focus on that. And even if you don't get, the 15 points, that's not the end of the world. There are still options available to you. And you may not know it at the time, but the path that you end up taking may actually be where you're supposed to be, which is something I realized later on in life, that I actually am exactly where I needed
You're supposed to be.
Exactly.
So is this a matter of purpose and calling? Because this also comes up a lot with other women I've spoken to, how everyone has a calling and a purpose in life. Do you feel like when you say this is what you're meant to be, you have found your calling and your purpose in life?
Yes, I do believe so. And I didn't understand it, of course, when I was in A-level, or even when I was at college. I didn't yet see or understand my purpose. But it took some years. And I believe now I do realize that I am doing exactly what I was meant to be. I'll explain that a little further, and explain my history or my background. It hasn't all been rosy, and I'll tell you something that happened many years ago when I was much younger, that I only managed to add 2 and 2 together with the help of my mother. My mother has been like an angel to me. And she's actually the one who pointed out a few things to me and said, do you realize where you are at and what you're doing is based on this that happened to you when you were a child? And to explain what I'm talking about, I had a younger brother. He was a year old when he passed away.
Oh, sorry.
Why he passed on was he had what we call a patent foramen ovale, a hole in the heart at layman's terms. So he had a cardiac issue that wasn't picked up until it was too late, right? By the time he was sent here to Bulawayo to Mater Day, and he had his heart scanned, and they realized, oh, he's got this, and then arrangements were made for surgery. He didn't make it. He passed on before then, right? That's issue number one. And then my father, my own father, he had a history of intestinal obstruction, that's the intestines twisting on themselves and that type of thing. We lived in Wange, an urban area, but the hospital didn't have adequate imaging services. So, and also being from Wange, like the first thing that came to mind was malaria. So my father was treated for 3 weeks for malaria. He didn't have any investigative studies, he didn't have any x-rays or scans done. And then when they saw he wasn't getting any better, they actually transferred him all the way to Bulawayo, where he eventually got those scans and x-rays, and it was discovered, oops, it's actually an intestinal obstruction. And then they took him into theater and all that, but it was too late, and he passed away. So I say this to tell you how I realized later on in life that my father and my younger brother passed away due to late diagnosis. And the late diagnosis was basically only because there were no medical imaging services in the town where I grew up. Okay. Oh. So later in life, when I worked at a public hospital here in Bulawayo, I was serving a number of people from all over the country. Because it was a referral hospital, so you had people coming in from as far as Victoria Falls, you know, and rural areas that I'd never even heard of, and they're being referred there. This service did not exist in the communities where these people are coming from. And I thought to myself, how many other people have lost family members the same way as I did because of poor diagnosis due to a lack of imaging services? So, like I said, it's these life experiences that kind of
shape you and drive you towards.
Exactly. And like you're not even aware of it at the time as it's happening, but everything is kind of shaping you towards what you're supposed to be doing.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just joined us, you are here on One-on-One with Amakhosikazi, and today I'm talking to Candice Mbaita, a radiographer who also runs a mobile imaging diagnostic company. I hope I got that right. It's a mouthful. We'll be back after this short break to hear from Candice about the work she's now doing in the community, driven by her experiences in life. And it's a warm welcome back to One-on-One with Amakhosikazi, where today we're talking to Candice Mbaita, a radiographer and founder, managing director of Insight Mobile Imaging.
Yes.
And I believe from what you're telling me, this is something that you started because you saw a need in the community. Tell us more about what Insight Mobile Imaging does.
Okay. So Insight Mobile Imaging is a mobile medical imaging service. So what I mean by that is we go out into the communities. We offer these services within the communities where people live. Our vision is to make medical imaging services accessible to all communities, to everyone, regardless of your socioeconomic background or your geographical location. Because like I said, I grew up in Wange. It was an urban town, but just didn't have the service. So that's an underserved community, but they're rural communities, they're remote communities that are off the grid. So we try to get to those communities and offer these services to them, because everybody, every citizen has a right to access to health services.
So when you're saying you're mobile, does it mean that you visit these different communities at different times? How exactly does it work?
Yes, so our mobility is actually what sets us apart from the ordinary radiology service or medical imaging service. In the past, the medical imaging services have been static, right? They're mostly located in urban areas. So that's why you have people traveling long distances to urban areas just to get this service. Okay, so we strive to cut down all that traveling and that time lost. And also this is time lost within the management of the disease, okay? So a person is having to carry this disease and this problem for a longer time because they're trying to get a service before they get help. So what we're doing is going to these communities, whether it's Filabusi, Inyati, or communities in the periphery of the city like Geta and Pumula South, you know, have the service within the communities where the people are, so that we have quicker management of disease, and this improves the general health of a community.
Why is it so difficult for our communities to have these services there where they are? Like you talk of Wanke, and to me, it is quite urban to an extent. If it has a huge hospital, you'd expect that they have such a service available to them, at least for the surrounding communities. Why has it been difficult for Zimbabwe to offer such services to communities?
Okay, so several things have happened since independence, right, that have made some of these services not easily available. So one thing is that the equipment is pricey, right? So private players may not have enough money to be able to get enough of this equipment to set up. But our government, which has most of the hospitals and clinics within the country, has faced lots of difficulties, as you know. So even if these hospitals and clinics are widespread across Zimbabwe, and the government has tried to place health facilities in as much in many places as possible to make it accessible to the people, but we don't have enough personnel to cover those experienced personnel or qualified personnel. People no longer want to go and work in the rural areas. Everyone wants to be, you know, in town.
Urban-based,
yes.
yeah.
So there is a poor distribution of health workers. You have most of them in the urban areas. And I'll have you know that 67% of Zimbabwe's population is actually rural. And yet we have most
all the skills concentrated in the urban areas.
Urban areas, the equipment is in the urban areas, the personnel is in the urban areas. So who's serving the 67% that's out there, you know? So that's been one of the problems. And also, if there was equipment out in district hospitals or provincial hospitals, it's become obsolete now. It's old equipment, it's broken down, and you know, it's been difficult to service and maintain these equipment over the years. So some of those hospitals do have equipment, but that's no longer in use.
So how do you manage with your Inside Mobile company? How do you get around? From what I've seen, the equipment is pretty big and sensitive. Are they like methods that you're employing to make sure that you're able to offer this service easily, given also the state of our roads? If you're always mobile, how do you maneuver around such difficulty?
Yeah, it has been a challenge, because it's great to have this vision of, you know, trying to help the communities and all that stuff, but there's realities that, you know, arise and that you need to face. Like you said, getting the equipment itself, it's expensive. When I started, I co-founded the company with a colleague. So we actually put our savings together to purchase our first bit of equipment. And then our choice of equipment as well was particularly to be able to carry it easily from, you know, location to location. So there is portable ultrasound equipment available on the market. We of course had to import it, but we can literally pack it up in a little suitcase, put it in the back of a car, and drive out to these communities. Getting to these communities has also been a challenge because our roads are in a dire state. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but we keep trying. And
how big is your team?
So right now, I've got a small team of permanent workers. However, I utilize locum radiographers. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it easy to access those? Because I know a number of them have left the country to go and work overseas. Do you still find that you can grow your team or have the locum that you're talking about, workers that come and assist you?
So the personnel does exist, but of course, you need to find the people that buy into your vision, because not everybody is about, social impact, and that's fine. People have different focuses.
Yeah.
So you need to get the people that buy into your vision, that want to effect social, change, that want to improve the health of the community. So those are the people that come on board. So it's like, what we mean by locum is like a part-time basis.
Yeah.
Yes. So as the need arises, then they come in and they, serve a particular area, and then someone else serves another, that type of thing. So that's how I've managed to do it so far.
So in the past years, when did you set up your organization?
It was registered in 2016, but that's another challenge that I faced. Registering this enterprise in Zimbabwe was quite difficult. It took quite a long time.
Is it because of the red tape and because it's a medical field? Or?
Exactly. That's the medical field is just difficult to register private practice. So there's so many channels that you have to go through, so many offices that you have to register with, so many licenses that you need to get. So that takes a lot of time, a lot of money, but eventually we managed to get through.
If it's something you're passionate about, you need to stick to it,
You
I
keep
suppose,
going, absolutely.
and keep going. Otherwise, you'd have given up.
Yes.
Looking back, how many communities do you think you've been able to touch with your services? If it's possible to even recall.
Communities, if we say communities, I could say 6, 7 communities as a whole so far in the last 2 years of actually on the ground, full-time working, yes. So 6, 7 communities over 3 provinces.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So Matabele in the north, Bulawayo province, and Matabele in the south is what we've managed to do so far in the past 2 years.
And what has been the most fulfilling aspect of your work with these communities?
I just love helping. Okay, that's fulfilling to me. I love it when people come in and we find a problem, and they can go back and get the correct treatment. Their condition is managed. They restore their health. They go back and they contribute to the economy. So that is fulfilling for me. Yeah.
So looking at the situation in our country, we have a lot of young people, young girls, and women actually, that are looking for inspiration, that do not have a lot of hope. Where do you think a lot of the challenges are? You go out into the communities, you meet these young people and these women. What are the biggest problems that they are facing?
I think opportunity is one thing that the women that I've encountered face, especially in these communities. They are disadvantaged communities, or they're poorer communities. So it's just opportunity that they lack. Okay, they don't have much exposure to things like people in the city would. They don't know that there's a North American space. They don't know the programs that are available to them at colleges or universities. They don't understand, a lot of what's going on out there in the world. So I think it's just opportunities and exposure that really hinder the women and girls in some of these communities that I work in.
And what is the role, or what place can people like yourself and other women that have realized this lack of opportunity and have found their purpose in life play in the lives of these communities? I know you are doing your part in terms of the medical aspect, but what about in terms of motivating, inspiring these young people? What else can we do to reach out to them and show them that there are other ways, there are other paths, there are other opportunities out there?
I think we all can collaborate, because if I'm in the medical field, that doesn't mean that I can't help with, mentoring of girls, programs like that, or women empowerment and that type of thing. What I also realized is I go out into these communities, right? So I am in a position to identify some of the needs in those communities. I speak to my patients, we share some, personal information and that type of thing. So I think I would be able to give someone who runs women empowerment workshops, for example, I would be able to give them an idea to say, maybe in the Bubi district, these are the problems that women are facing. And then if I collaborate with someone, like you, for example, if that's the sort of thing that you do, and then we work out a program that we say, okay, so let's do this program in Bubi district, and we get this number of women or this number of corporates to come in and help on this program. So I think there's just a need for collaboration, and not just one sector, like multi-sector collaboration. Yes.
Yeah. Now we can't talk health without mentioning COVID-19 and the impact that it has had on all our lives, especially women's lives. In the field that you work in, I know a lot of women suffer from cervical issues, like your breast cancer, your cervical cancer, and there's a need for a lot of what you do in their lives to diagnose these issues. What has been the biggest challenge that COVID-19 has brought into your area of work, and the impact it has had on women being able to find out what they're suffering from during these past few months?
Okay, so COVID has really limited movement. So that's the biggest impact it's had on us. And we're like based on movement.
Yeah.
So it's as though our legs were kind of cut off. Yes. Which was fine, because then we had to then focus on how can we still get information out. Yes, we offer a medical imaging service, but we also do, community education, because we still need to educate some of these communities about conditions that, they're not very familiar with, that they don't understand, or even just educate them on the need for medical imaging services. So then that brought us, back to the drawing board to start information dissemination, that type of thing, to say, okay, women, you're kind of stuck out there in your communities, but you're not alone. We're here and we're going to share this sort of information with you. When things ease, you need to get yourself checked. You need to go get your cervix examined. Are you feeling this type of symptom? This could be it. Visit your doctor or your clinic, and these are your options, that type of thing. So It's just awareness and information dissemination right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is One on One with Amakhosikazi. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the last segment of One on One with Amakhosikazi. Candice, what would you tell a young woman who's watching right now, who aspires to be like you, not necessarily in your field, but would like to find their purpose in life? What is that one thing that you'd want to tell them?
Just one.
More. I tell them everything.
Okay, I'll try and be brief. I'd want to say, do what you're good at, do what you enjoy, remain focused, do not give up. Even if you hit brick walls, don't give up. Life is not easy, but just persevere, keep trying, and do the best you can where you are. That's very important. People think sometimes that, they're hopeless, or, they find themselves in a difficult spot. You can make an impact wherever you are. So whatever field you're in, whatever socioeconomic background you come from, you can make the most of it. You can make an impact where you are with what you have.
So what does Candice do to while up time? What are your hobbies?
I like to travel. Yes, that requires some money. But yeah, when I can save up some money, I like to travel. I like to see new places. I am an outdoorsy person, so I like adventure. Yeah.
And what do you read during your quiet time?
Okay, about reading, this thing of development and growing is very interesting. When I was younger, when I was in high school and stuff, I used to only read fiction and, I used to get lost in, these lovely stories, other people's, exactly, other people's lives and other people's stories. But I now do not read fiction. I have nothing against fiction, and some people love that, but I cannot read fiction anymore. So
what do you read? Like journals and medical stuff?
Self-help. Okay. Yes, of course, there's medical stuff, there's school, because I'm also like what you call
bookworm.
That, yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm constantly studying. Like I'm on my 3rd degree right now and looking forward to applying for a 4th
What is that? What is that? For a 4th degree?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I do a lot of
We need to come back to that. Okay.
I do a lot of school reading, but I like self-help books. I like self-motivation books. I like books that help to build me, I like books that help to prepare me for life. So that's the type of stuff I read. I read things like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the 7 habits of effective people.
Successful people.
That type of, I want to be a better person. I want to be a better business person, but also just feed my soul. So that's the type of
feed your mind with things that really impact you and other people. Tell me about these degrees that you're doing.
Okay.
Count them one by one for me.
Okay, so the first was, the Bachelor of Science degree in radiography, and then I did a master's degree in diagnostic radiography, which was abroad, like a broad management degree, and I'm currently completing a 2nd master's degree in diagnostic ultrasound, in medical ultrasound, so specializing in that because that's my area of interest. And I'm hoping next year to register for a PhD in public health.
Wow. Wow. That is wonderful. And the importance of education in our lives, seeing our education system and also how COVID has put a hold on education, what would you say about the importance of constantly teaching yourself new things, gaining new skills, especially if you're going to run a business or start something of your own?
Thank you for putting it that way, teaching yourself new skills, because I wanted to make it clear that formal education and degrees is my personal choice,
yeah.
Right? It's something I enjoy, but I don't want young girls out there to think that if you don't have a degree, then you can't succeed or you can't get ahead in life. That's not it. It's not really about formal education. You can still learn new skills and develop yourself without a degree.
I think also the fact that it's a medical profession, there is a certain level that you need to reach for you to be licensed and to work. For you, degrees are important, but that doesn't stop someone else from reaching that level.
That's not applicable in other fields.
Exactly. Candice, it's been so nice talking to you. I don't know if there's anything about you that you'd like us to know that I haven't asked you about. Maybe you could shed more light on that if there is any aspect.
I can't think of anything at the moment.
All right. Otherwise, thank you so much for making the time to be with us and for talking to us about your personal life and the profession that you're working in and how it's touching communities out there. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Candice and Mbaita on One with Amakhosikazi Media. My name is Busibebe. I learn from these conversations with women, and I hope you are learning something too. Otherwise, we'll be back on your screen again on the same platform very soon with another vibrant guest that you'll learn from. Till next time, we'll close out with a song from Noma, and she's giving us something called Ngipa Ituba. I hope you enjoy it. Take care.
Unwegaliskolo Stolo babo fungu wenda njalo kakwazi ukulinda Sasa siyohamba Sungumaluka sana sonke sinawo amaphupho, sonke sinazo izifiso, sonke sisalwa sinethemba, kodwa uthi kangifanani njengaye. Sonke sinawo amaphupho, sonke sinazo izifiso, sonke sizalwa sinethemba, kodwa uthi kangifanani njengaye. Mangizalwa ukukhula kwami akufani nokwakho, impilo yami ayifani neyakho, thuba lakho kalifanani nelami. Wena uyahamba mina ngihambi, wena uyaphiwa mina ngiyancishwa, wena uyahlala mina ngiyasuswa, kodwa nami nginawo amaphupho, sonke sinawo amaphupho, sonke sinazo izifiso, sonke sisalwa sinethemba, kodwa uthi kangifanani njengawe. Ungangiphethuba uzobona usizo lwami, ungangiphethuba siyabambanisa umjwalolo, ungangiphethuba, ungangiphethuba, ungangiphethuba isilizwe sonke, ungangiphethuba uzobona usizo lwami, ungangiphethuba siyabambanisa umjwalolo, ungangiphethuba, ungangiphethuba, ungangiphethuba isilizwe sonke. Sonke sinawo amaphupho, sonke sinazo izifiso, sonke sisalwa sinethemba, kodwa uthi kangifanani njengaye.